name of the book is The Girl with the Green Lipstick. It's based on a true story. It happened to me, and as you mentioned, I do produce actually 2 radio shows on the local NPR affiliate, and those are available as podcasts worldwide. And I was married to the love of my life, and she got ovarian cancer. And so we did our best to get her better, and she got better for a while. And then it came back with a vengeance, and in June of 2014, she died. And for the next 16 months, I wore my wedding band. I still felt married. And the wife of a dear friend took me aside at a function and said, look, you need to go online. You need to find a mate. Carol, your wife, would have wanted that. And you're a healthy guy. You live in a nice community. You've got a good lifestyle. Find somebody. So I went online, and the first woman that I saw that I thought I might have an interest in dating turned out to be the girl with the green lipstick.
That's awesome.
She played sort of hard to get, but she needed a job, and I happened to have a retail store operation, and I needed a store manager, and so that worked out. And I was talking to my attorney about something completely unrelated and told her, wow, I've got this new person in my life, and she's managing one of my stores. And my attorney said, oh, Bill, please be careful. If you can avoid it, don't date an employee. And so I spoke to this woman that I had gotten involved with, and I said, look, either I have to fire you so we can date, or we got to quit seeing each other because there's just too much room for problems.
Yes.
And she said, well, I need a job. And I said, okay, well, then it's settled. I guess we won't go out. And but I tried dating other women for the next year and a half, and I was around this one woman all the time. She was in my stores. She eventually became my general manager, and I just fell in love with her. And you can't
awesome.
really, you can't tell your heart who to love and who not to love. It just happens. So we started going out, and we eventually got married. I bought a house for us to share, live in part-time in Albuquerque, which is about 50 miles south of Santa Fe, where I have my main residence. And the idea was we'd split our time between the 2 houses. Her son was at UNM in Albuquerque, and 3 of my 5 stores were in Albuquerque, and she was the general manager of them. So it made sense to have some time down there, but I also didn't want to give up my house in Santa Fe, and she was amenable to having us kind of split our time, or at least she said she was. And about a month after we got married and I bought this house in Albuquerque, she moved her boyfriend into the house. And, I grew up in Montana, kind of a hard scrabble existence, and, we wouldn't be the first couple where one spouse had an affair and you get through it and you get to the other side and everything is fine. I know couples who that happened to early in their marriage, and they've been married almost 40 years. So, you say, look, it can work out. And besides, this guy is a Mexican national. He's a handyman. And I thought, he's never going to give her the kind of lifestyle that she wants. And but little did I know, she was stealing from my store operation to support her lifestyle. Turns out she's a repeat offender felon who's addicted to prescription pain medicine. And she had been stealing from my store operation to the tune of about $250,000. And all this I found out as we were getting divorced. And then I sold the house to someone, and I said to him, look, the only fixture in the entire house that was changed was the ceiling fan in the bedroom. She wanted the one that I had purchased and had installed in there. She called it shabby chic. It was kind of white filigree with cut teardrop glass baubles, you know. I called it early American bordello, but at any rate, she wanted it, so I said, fine. So long as there's one installed that works, I'm okay. So I told the buyer, look, just, you know, I don't know if the handyman boyfriend is a qualified electrician, just check it out. And he went up and took the base plate off and found an incendiary device. And the only reason it didn't go off and burn down the house is because apparently when they were putting the base plate back on, one side of the electrical connection came loose. But other than that, the house would have burned down as soon as I turned on the fan.
Holy smokes! You had God, the universe, and everybody else watching out for you on that one. Holy smokes!
No two ways about it. And so, at any rate, a couple of months later, the wife of the couple that bought that house called me and said, something weird happened, Bill. Your ex-wife just had something delivered from Ulta.com. Ulta is the cosmetic place.
Oh, yeah.
Had it delivered. A box came here, and it's addressed to her. And I said, well, she probably forgot that was her default delivery address. Open it up, and let's make sure she's not charging my credit cards or absconding with money or whatever. And she did, and I said, what's in there? And she said, well, there's some blush, and there's a brush, and there's this dark green lipstick. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, it's almost black. It's dark green. And apparently this stuff, when a woman applies it to her lips, the pH in her lips turns it bright pink. And so this woman became, in my view, the girl with the green lipstick.
Oh, this is fantastic. We have got a great guest with us today. So, Bill, this book, incredibly well written. You've put a lot of time and effort into the book. What do you want readers to take away from your writing of this book?
Well, I think it's important to, I'll tell you something. When I got divorced from my first wife, I worked with a counselor. And he said, look, the only thing we owe to ourselves is to be completely honest with ourselves. And I don't know if you remember the movie The Big Chill, but there's a scene between the Kevin Costner character and the Jeff Goldblum character. And they're discussing what's the most important contributor to the human condition. And the Klein character says, that's easy, sex. And the Goldblum character says, no, it's rationalization. And the Klein character says, no, it's sex. And the Goldblum character looks at him deadpan and says, have you ever gone a week without rationalization? So the kicker is I was rationalizing bad behavior. And when you're in a relationship, you need to be honest, both with your partner and with yourself. And so, you can't allow yourself to rationalize things that go on that just don't seem to make any sense. And the only way that I got out of that was this woman said, well, I'm not going to be back with you until we go to marriage counseling, which she could have dragged out for years.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, and I found a counselor online in Albuquerque, so she wouldn't have to come to Santa Fe. And I spoke to the counselor. The counselor said, well, the way I normally work is I work with one of you first, and then if and when the time is right, I'll work with both of you together. I said, fine, I'll go. I'll volunteer. So I met with this marriage counselor, and about 40 minutes in, she put up her hand and said, let me stop you. she said, "This woman is horrible. You need to get rid of her.
That's awesome.
You need to call your attorney this afternoon or at latest tomorrow. She will try to destroy you in every way she can." And that was such a bucket of cold reality water that just made me realize, oh my God, I've just been in a haze and just, kidding myself and being completely unrealistic and rationalizing terrible behavior. And it was shortly after that that I discovered that she had a criminal record, that she was indeed addicted to prescription pain medicine. And it's been a long haul, but there are law enforcement agencies in 2 states that are interested in this woman, and we hope that she'll be back in prison soon.
Absolutely amazing. So this book, take me through your writing process to bring this thing to life.
Well, so I would meet people, and they'd say, "Hey, we heard you got married. Where's your wife?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm married, but I'm not sure I have a wife." And so after we ended up getting divorced, I would start telling people the things that I had discovered, both about how she had treated me while we were together, and then what her criminal history was. So, there was this whole emotional dimension, not to mention the fact that she was stealing from me. So I'm chatting with a couple that I haven't seen in a couple of months, and I belong to a country club here, and I was having dinner at the bar one night, and they were sitting at the bar, and we got to chatting, and it turns out the wife is a published author. And she said, "Oh my God, Bill, you have a book. Send me an outline."
Yes.
So I wrote about a 20-page outline, and she said, "Oh, please write this." And, it's amazing when you have the kind of criminal record that this woman does. There's a phenomenal amount of detail about your life and your background that is in the public domain. And so she's clearly a narcissist on the sociopath, psychopath spectrum, putting an incendiary device in a house that I owned and was going to theoretically live in. That's, attempted murder, possibly. It's certainly attempted arson. And so that's psychopathic. Normal people don't try to kill other people by using a house to do it. And but when you have the things that had happened to you, and then you can kind of imagine. I know that this woman has been in prison 3 times before, and prison is not exactly a wonderful place, particularly for women, and so you can just let your imagination run crazy, and the book kind of writes itself.
Well, it is a fantastic, fantastic book. The Girl with the Green Lipstick is a dramatic rendition of a stunning chain of events, and the author joins us today here on our big broadcast. And so what has been some of the different reviews that you've gotten on the book so far, whether it be advanced reviews from people you've given the book to, or just reviews on this project?
One woman said, I was so helpful in explaining that you need to get out of a relationship with a narcissist. She hoped that at the end I would have put references and helpful materials that people could. I'm like, this is a novel. This is not a self-help book. But clearly
That's awesome.
There are people who very much value the fact that I've brought. I'll tell you something else. I'll tell people my story, and they'll go, "Oh my God, Bill, my son or somebody I work with, or my sister's brother-in-law have been involved with somebody." And what gets me about these narcissistic relationships is some of them have gone on for 12 or 15 years with this kind of emotional abuse. And so on the one hand, the reviews have been wow, is this a breath of fresh air and a reminder about how relationships can go bad and how you have to really love yourself first and then be realistic and truthful with yourself. On the other hand, people are just amazed at the story and say, you can't believe how fast. One guy said, your hands will get sore from turning the pages so fast.
That's fantastic.
And almost everybody has said, oh my heavens, turn this into a movie. So I already have my choice for the lead. I want Naomi Watts. She's just sufficiently trashy to be the woman that I was married to.
I love it. We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live. This book is fascinating. So, what do the locals that hear your NPR program and everything? What do they think about this book?
Well, I've gotten very good reviews. I mean, almost everybody is incensed that it's taken several years and about $70,000 of my own money to even get the DA interested in the case. And Albuquerque is a violent place. And so the DA has basically said to me, look, this does not rise to the level of gun-in-the-face crime. They're serious. These are Class B felonies. We will get around to dealing with them, but you need to understand that violent crime comes first. And my attorney and her team put together the evidence against this woman. It's quite compelling. The police have done their investigation and referred it to the DA with recommendation for prosecution on several felonies. She moved to another state. The law enforcement folks in that state are looking into her for money laundering. So she's a pip. And you know, narcissists who are sociopaths can be charming and wonderful and funny and sexy, and did I mention sexy? And but boy, they'll cut you just to laugh while you're bleeding.
Well, it is quite an interesting piece of business. So besides the book, you have some great radio programs. Talk to us about these.
Well, a couple of years ago, I went to a charity auction here in town and bought time, about an hour, on a jazz show. And I did the show, picked the music, introduced it. The guy who was the regular host has had an encyclopedic knowledge of jazz, so he was adding color commentary. We just had a great time. I got down to the end of the show, and he said, I'm screwed. And I said, really, why? And he said, well, I do this political show on Mondays, and one of my commentators just texted me that they aren't going to be able to make it. I said, well, I'm interested in politics. And he said, do you want to fill in? And I said, sure. So that was about 9 years ago, and I was a panelist for about 4 or 5 years, and then, unfortunately, John, the guy whose show it was, died. And the station came to me and said, would you please continue this show? It's about the only balanced political programming we have. And I said, yeah, I'd be happy to continue it. And then about a year after that, they said, you know, in addition to the weekly show, we have a once-a-month hour slot that we'd like you to fill with similar programming. And I said, terrific. So I produce a monthly hour-long show and then a weekly half-an-hour show, and it's all political opinion.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. So what is next for you as an author?
Well, I have a couple of other stories. I grew up in Montana and spent summers in Missouri, where my mother was from, and then I went east for college, and I was a management consultant and a marketing guy. Retired after a stint of 4 years in Australia, and landed here in Santa Fe. But I have met some characters and some situations that I'd love to write about, and so I think I may have another couple of books in me. We'll see how this one does.
That's awesome. Well, this book is fantastic. I appreciate you making time for us today. Before we let you go, how do people get in touch with you online, social media, buy the book, everything?
So the book is available on the Kindle platform on Amazon. You can get it in ebook or printed book format. You can go to my website, which is Bill Saubert, and the last name is SAUBERT.com. You can find me on Instagram, and on Instagram there's a link tree link that has several of the prior interviews that I've done as podcasts, and then it also has a link to where you can buy the book.
Fantastic. Well, Bill, thanks for doing this, my friend. I really appreciate the time and the effort on the book, and we will talk to you soon. Have yourself a blessed day, my friend.
James, I really appreciate you and your listeners giving me a little time, and we'll chat again soon.
Definitely. Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you. There he goes. That is Bill Saubert. We are going to do this. We are going to take a brief time out. Guy K. Mitchell is scheduled to join us. We will take a brief time out. When we come back, we will have